What did you just say? Mama Iyabo stood up in shock and worry. You're pregnant for who? She directed the question to Shade. Shade slowly pointed at Ayo while sobbing, her head bent in shame. Hey God, oh. Ayomide, I said it, oh. What? Shade screamed. How did that happen? She further questioned Ayo, who could not utter a word. His aunt's voice of reason rang in high volumes in his head. He was so lost in many thoughts that were going through his mind. Ayo! She snapped her fingers twice before his eyes, and he immediately jumped back to the present. How did that happen, Ayo? Shade asked again, her voice trembling in fear as tears escaped her eyes. Ayo hugged her and held her in his arms. I don't know, Shade, but we will be fine. Let's calm down, please. Calm down? Calm down? I might be pregnant with your baby, and I am just a 17-year-old girl who is striving to survive. I don't know what to do if I happen to be pregnant, Ayo. So please, do not ask me to calm down because I am losing my mind here, Shade said angrily. Ayo knew she was angry. Him too was losing it, but someone needed to calm the situation quickly before it escalates. Baby, Ayo began. Shade baby, listen to me. Look at me. Breathe. I know how this looks, but we can't conclude yet that you're pregnant. I know people that have been trying to get pregnant for over 6 months, but they haven't. I'm not saying that it is not possible to be pregnant. I am only saying that we can't be sure. Not yet. So let's try to be as positive as possible. I won't leave you no matter what. We will get through this together, okay? Shade nodded, taking in some deep breaths. Ayo saw Shade off to her house that day and promised to check up on her the next day. He, however, went back to Mide's house to bear his heart out to his best friend. He was sinking. The many thoughts in his head were almost about to burst open his head. He needed to talk to someone who wouldn't judge him for a stupid mistake he made. And his trusted friend Mide, who always came through for him, was his best bet. Mide and Ayo sat down with a bottle of light beer each in Mide's sitting room as Ayo narrated the incident to him. Bro, I am finished. If this happens to be so, I might as well forget my academics. My auntie warned me that she's not ready to adopt any wedlock child. I have no other support system, nor job. In fact, Ayo went on and on lamenting and bearing his heart to Mide, who listened all through. Mide was a tough kid who was raised by a single mother who was barely at home. She was always traveling for work so as to give Mide the best she could. And so Mide learned how to be independent and strong from a little age. As he listened to Ayo, he felt so sorry that his friend had to go through such trauma from just his first experience with being with a girl. He calmed Ayo down the best he could and told him that the most they could do was to wait patiently. 1 month later, Shade started having weird morning sicknesses and was feeling extremely weak. She was oversleeping as well. Shade was in fact convinced that she was pregnant, but she needed to be extra sure. She told Ayo about the new changes she was experiencing and suggested that they visit a discreet hospital to be sure. So they planned with Mide, who hooked them up with a trusted nurse friend of his mom, Nurse Sandra. Nurse Sandra came to Mide's house and took blood samples of Shade, so she could run the tests in their hospital and bring her the results. This way, nobody would see them going in and out of a hospital and start to suspect them. The results came in the next day, and it happened that Sade was 3 weeks pregnant. Even though they all suspected this to be true, the confirmation of this weighed their hearts down as things were about to get real. The thought of aborting the baby was not an option for them because they were both strongly against it. They decided to go to Ayo's house together to relate the news to Auntie Yabo. What did you just say? Mama Yabo stood up in shock and worry. You're pregnant for who? She directed the question to Sade. Sade slowly pointed at Ayo while sobbing, her head bent in shame. Hey God, oh, Ayomide, I said it, oh. Did I warn you or not, this boy? Now see the shame and misfortune you have brought to this family. She shouted and lamented for over 30 minutes. And finally, she released Sade, saying she could go back home, that she needed to hold a meeting with her husband and siblings to find out the way forward. Sade left in tears. When she got home that day, her father was sober. He looked straight into his daughter's eyes and saw clearly that she was struggling. He hugged her, apologizing for being a burden to her instead of a father. He promised to sit up and support her no matter what. A few weeks later, Sade, her father, and two of her uncles went for a meeting with Ayo's family. Sade and Ayo were told that it was a tradition of the land for a man to marry whomever he impregnated, so that the mother of the child will not be tagged a single parent, and so that the unborn child will not be tagged a bastard. Their plan was for Ayo to forfeit his higher institution and start hustling for his wife and child. Ayo's people promised to come and pay Sade's bride price in 2 days' time. After all the rites were concluded, Sade and Ayo became husband and wife. Ayo's family supported them with a one-bedroom apartment in Arin community, and then with small money to start up a small business and work their way up. Even though they loved each other and would have loved to get married, Sade and Ayo were shattered because this was definitely not the way they planned for it to happen. Their first night together as husband and wife was a disaster. They cried so much that they did not know when they both fell asleep from crying excessively. It was as if their lives were coming to an end. But something happened 2 days later. Mide's mother was in town that week, and after Mide related the entire incident to her, she promised to visit Ayo and Sade to offer some words of encouragement to them, as she could totally relate to their situation. On the set day, she went with Mide to Ayo's apartment. Ayo and his wife, Sade, were looking all gloom with swollen eyes from crying. Mama Mide felt so sorry for them, so she sat them down and started to tell them her own story. She said she made the same mistake when she was a teenager, but her case was hugely different. Her then boyfriend had denied the pregnancy, and she was tagged an ashewo for sleeping around and getting pregnant with a bastard. Her own mother sent her packing and into the streets without help. She struggled for months until a good Samaritan pitied her and decided to give her a job as a sales girl. The good Samaritan trained her in the business as well because she was loyal and very hardworking. And that is how she got to the position she is at the moment, training her child single-handedly and doing excellently at it. Why am I telling you people this story? Mama Mide said. It is simply to let you know that life has not ended. In fact, life has just begun. You have two choices: to join forces together as one and build an empire so that your children do not have to go through what you're going through right now, or to keep pitying yourselves and eventually fall into depression. The choice is yours. She finished. When she was done encouraging them to pick up the pieces of their lives together and make something out of it, she went ahead to support them with some money and left. Ayo and Sade now decided to have a heart-to-heart talk and draw a map about what to actually do with their lives. Ayo, who was about to write JAMB, said he will not be doing so anymore so that he could find something doing to take care of Sade and the baby. But to his surprise, Sade countered this opinion. She said she would not be able to forgive herself if she let Ayo drop out of school, not after all the years he had put in. At least let one of us become a graduate. This is the only way we will get out of this abject poverty lifestyle we were born into, Sade buttressed. Wait, you can't be serious, Ayo replied. But how can I be going to school and taking care of you and baby as fully as I need to? He asked. I would step up, Sade began. I would hire a very skilled hand that would help me increase my puff-puff snack supply to many more schools, eateries, and supermarkets. The plan is to expand as much as we could. You, on the other hand, can help out with the delivery of the supplies before heading out for school after you must have gained admission, Sade replied. Ayo was dumbfounded. How did he get so lucky, he thought to himself. Sade was literally a godsend to him. He hugged Sade tightly with tears in his eyes and promised not to ever let her down. A few weeks later, Ayo took the JAMB exams and had high scores. They were elated. But reality soon set in, as the funds to pay for his school fees and other things he needed was a big challenge to them. In theory, they had already calculated all the money they would be making weekly from their puff-puff business. But unfortunately, business was very slow and reality was not adding up with the numbers they had in their head. They were struggling. Sade's condition did not allow her to do much. Her doctor was advising her to get more rest day by day. The help she hired was suddenly asking for a salary increment, even though she knew business was slow. So they had to let her go. Sade added Zobo drinks to her puff-puff business and started coaching some junior students that were looking to acquire some skills. That way, she was able to raise enough money for Ayo's school fees. Even though in his free time, Ayo helped out with the supply and marketing of the puff-puff, he would carry it to bus parks to market and sell them there. The bulk of the responsibility was on Shadi and it was weighing her down. Yet, she kept going. 3 months later, Shade gave birth to a bouncing baby boy who was called Oluwatobi. The struggling became double as she did not have anybody to help her hold Toby so that she could focus on her business. And so she would carry him to fry puff puff and go for supplies all by herself. Yet she did not complain. She was doing all these things for love. 3 years had passed and Ayo was now in his final year. He was getting frustrated seeing Shade suffer so much. Life was getting more and more difficult for them as days passed by. His mood was always very sad and low. A couple of months passed and he was finished with his final year exams and clearance and was now waiting for his name to come out on the NYSC list. This is a list of those that would serve their country for 1 year. So one night, he related to Shadi that his name had come out and that he would be leaving for NYSC camp in a month's time. Shadi was so happy for him, but she had her own news that she wanted to relate to him. "I'm pregnant," Shadi said, not sure of the emotion she was going to get from Ayo. "You are what?" Ayo replied in shock and surprise. As usual, this story has a lot of lessons to be learned, but it is not concluded yet. So I encourage you to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out when I drop the part 3 and final part of this story. Please don't click out without subscribing, as this is one of the ways you can support this channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Until I come your way next time. Bye.